G'day, Mick. Welcome to Landscape Photography World. How's your day been?
Yeah, great. Thanks for having me on.
Yeah, you're very welcome. I'm very pleased to have you. I've been a follower of your work for a little bit of time, and I think you do some fantastic stuff up around the Newcastle area. I mean, you get out and about everywhere else, but I love your shots in and around Newcastle. There's some fantastic scenery around there, and I think you've done a fantastic job at capturing it. So, why don't we start? Let's go back to the beginning. Who is Mick Fortier, and why are you a landscape photographer?
Yeah, okay. So I guess explain that, if I go back to when I was a child, I suppose I was exposed to photography at an early age. I grew up on the Central Coast, pretty close to the Ken Duncan Gallery.
Oh yeah, yeah, down.
Yeah, near there, and just growing up with Ken Duncan, I'm a massive fan of him, and I guess he's a big inspiration to my photography. Um, and I've still got his prints today. I've got a few of those. So yeah, that was probably my first influence was from him. And then my father was also a photographer, and in particular was a forensic police officer. And
Wow. Okay.
yeah, he used to take the old school film camera, and he used to take me into the dark rooms and show me how he used to develop it. And I just saw,
Not the gruesome forensic shots, I hope.
oh no, they weren't too. No, there wasn't any gruesome ones. Just more showing me the process. And
Yeah, I know.
I still remember to this day just the smells of the different chemicals and the darkness of the room. And yeah, it was really interesting. So I think that's where it started. And then over the years, my dad would always give me like a hand down camera that he wasn't using anymore, and just sort of dabbled in that over the years. And I probably didn't pick up a camera and do it properly until probably about 6 years ago or 5 years ago. And it was, I guess the reason why I picked it up was, so I was a police officer for 8 years.
Okay.
Sort of a very similar story to, I think it's Gil from Tasmania. You interviewed her about a year ago. She was a police officer down there.
Right.
And yeah, she's found it therapeutic. And I guess that's the reason why, I picked it up. But I didn't go straight into handheld digital camera. I actually bought a drone first.
Right.
Yeah. And just to keep my mind busy and sort of, um, I guess it was therapeutic for me. I was medically discharged from the police with PTSD, as a lot of police officers do.
Yeah.
It's not an easy job, and it can.
I don't think it's a job that many people can do for very long periods. I think it tends to have a shelf life.
Yeah,
Then you kind of got to get out because it
yeah,
does your head in.
yeah. And I think the average lifespan of a police officer only is now like 3 years now. So
Yeah.
it's gone from like 10 to 5, and then now it's only the average life of a police officer is three years. So
Okay.
yeah, look, it just yeah, I picked up a drone because I just wanted to do something to get that front part of the brain working again, and get that creative side happening. And yeah, I just started taking photographs with the drone and really, really enjoyed it. Started posting some photos up on Instagram, and it got a bit of traction. So from there, went and got a digital camera, and I also joined New South Wales TAFE and did a photography course at the Hunter Street campus in Newcastle.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, just I met one of my teachers there, Mark Sinclair, who's a really good photographer and a really good teacher. He sort of shaped the way, I guess, I look at photography and, editing styles, and gave me full rundown on Lightroom and Photoshop. And that really sort of, I guess, progressed my photography. So yeah, I did a certificate 4 in that. And then, yeah, after that, I expanded to water photography, and I went and bought a water housing thing for for my camera and got into the water side of photography and dabbled in, real estate photography for a bit, dabbled in wedding photography, food photography, but I just found I had more enjoyment just going off and doing it as a sort of a fun thing and therapeutic sort of, way of doing it. So, yeah, I mean, selling prints is always great, but it's not going to be a main source of income. So, I just do it more as a hobby now. And if I sell a print, then that's a bonus. So,
Yeah, fair enough.
yeah.
I'm interested in some of what you were saying there around the education side and how, going off to TAFE and, getting some mentorship and some assistance out of some of the people there.
Yeah.
How much do you think that's contributed to the way that you operate now with your photography?
Yeah, like I think it's helped with my post-processing. Like I was editing on a really old computer and I found that and I don't know if you've experienced this, but when you edit on maybe an older style computer and then when you transfer it to your phone to maybe post it up on Instagram, I found it was very different what you saw on your computer screen. So, by going to TAFE and using their computers and they use Apple Mac computers, whether or not you're there or not. But I just find that the colors are more truer. And my photography seemed to improve once I bought a Apple Mac. Yeah, I don't know, something clicked. But and then just the editing styles and techniques in Lightroom and Photoshop. There's just so many features in those two programs that, just it opens up doors that I wasn't aware of. So
Yeah, nice. You mentioned PTSD and using photography as a bit of an escape or a way of dealing with, I guess that pressure that builds up.
yeah,
I don't want to delve into the reasons for PTSD and all the rest of that sort of thing, but I'm keen on the therapeutic side of photography and how that has sort of worked for you, and where do you see yourself now compared to when you started?
yeah. Look, I honestly believe there needs to be some more research done into why photography is so therapeutic for, say, PTSD. But I actually put it down to, why I think it's therapeutic is so in the police force, you see day in, day out, a lot of bad stuff, a lot of carnage.
So,
It sort of brainwashes your brain to just look at the world very negatively. So, what I found with photography is it sort of brainwashes your brain back to look for more positive things in your environments, nature in particular. And it really worked for me to the point that even my doctor actually suggested that I start to maybe mentor other ex-police and try and do it as a way of art therapy. So that's something that I will be doing in the future is probably, taking one or two people out that may be ex-military or ex-police and just sort of showing them what the benefits of what it can do for you. And I think I sort of compare it to just changing lenses in the police. You're on guard, that's that lens, and you see a lot of bad stuff. And then, with photography, it's like changing lenses to look for, the beauty of nature in it. So
yeah,
it's just so therapeutic in that sense. But then to add to that, well, I honestly believe that for me, I'm a bit of a dopamine chaser. Like all my life, I've always sort of looked for a hit of dopamine, whether it was playing football or, joining the police. You get a bit of a dopamine hit there when you're helping people. And, with photography, you do get dopamine hits from it. And I do compare, and I don't know if any other photographers felt this way, but I compare photography very similar to fishing.
yeah,
because you prep your gear, you might check the conditions, you go out, you don't know what you're going to catch. And when you get something that you really are happy with, it's the same hit as fishing.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah. So
Well, I'm with you on that because often times when I'm down at the beach, they're the only other people out there are rock fishermen trying to catch something. And as you say, they don't know what they're going to get. I don't know what I'm going to get. Yeah, it's pretty good analogy.
yeah, it is.
One of the other things looking at your work I'm fascinated by is the range. And as you said, you kind of started with looking at drone photography
Yeah.
and then got a DSLR and then you got a water housing. So you kind of, you're not only above the landscape or the water, you beside it, and you're also in it. And I think that's given your portfolio a real range that a lot of photographers don't get me wrong, not everybody specializes, but quite a lot of people, they'll specialize. They'll just do aerial or they'll just do, tripod or handheld photography, or they'll just get in the water. And
Yeah.
I'm really interested. That breadth, is that important to you in terms of your work and in terms of the way that you think about your photography?
Yeah, absolutely. So I know, like, from listening to a few of your other podcasts, one of the questions you come up with is what happens when you get creative block, um, and how do you get through that creative block? So what it does for me is I don't really get any creative blocks because I've got so many ideas running through my head about whether it be drone photography, water photography, astro, um, landscape photography. I've just got so many ideas and concepts that I can just, if I'm not feeling one sort of area, or I'll just hit the next area. And I know a lot of photographers, I've been told that I really should try and specialize in
No, you
just one.
shouldn't. I'm
Mhm.
done.
I like to learn, and like even astrophotography, I'm still learning how to do that. And I often venture out with more experienced astrophotographers just to learn because I'm just so hungry to learn all the different aspects. And
Mm.
I think that sort of sets me apart from some photographers is that they all seem to specialize in one. But if I, if you have a dabble in all categories, then, just opens up
A
your
lot of
learning.
possibilities. Yeah.
Yeah.
I think a lot of people they will get passionate about a particular genre and they'll stick to it because they're really passionate about it. And that's totally fine. But I'm kind of like yourself. I haven't gone and splashed out on a housing as yet, but it's something that's definitely crossed my mind a few times. I used to surf back in the day when I
Yeah.
had knees that worked.
Yeah.
One of the things that I've always wanted to get back into is a bit around that sort of surf photography and getting back into the water
Yeah.
with a camera and looking at you definitely see the world differently from being immersed in the water in the waves to particularly in a surf situation. But I think also it opens up things like, you could do snorkeling and there's wildlife, there's marine life and that sort of thing that you can get into. And I know you've got quite a good portfolio of marine photography, marine wildlife photography. Um, Talk to me a bit about how that sort of come about.
Yeah, well, that sort of came about one of the first things with the drone. I'm really fascinated. Flying a drone, as you know, Grant, like it just gives you a totally different perspective. Um, And I think when start putting your drone out over the water, but once you get over that fear, um, you discover like sharks and stingrays, hammerheads, and dolphins and with whales, like
Yeah.
whales to me are the most beautiful animals. And they just, it just feels like such a privilege to be able to view them from above. It gives me the best feeling when I'm filming one. So yeah, I think that's where it started from. And then when I got my water housing, up in here in Newcastle, there's a place called the Bogey Hole, and it's been built by some ages ago by some, I don't know, I think it was convicts. I think it might have just been someone that manned the Newcastle area like back in the day, and they built this like rock pool. And within that rock pool, if you ever go there and take some snorkeling with you, there's just so much sea life underneath it that you wouldn't even realize. So
Yeah.
yeah, I've been doing some split level shots there, and I just keep going back to it because every time I go back, there's always a new sea creature that's there, whether it's a starfish or a giant crab, or
Yeah. Awesome.
just excites me.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And talk to me a bit about, your ventures into professional photography, but also pulling back from that. You mentioned that you kind of were, looking at real estate and events and so forth, and even wedding photography, and how that sort of changed your view of your own photography, and how that sort of played into your decision to sort of pull back on some of that stuff. Because I'm getting the feeling that you're probably not doing as much of that side of things as you were.
Yeah. So yeah, initially especially when I was doing TAFE, I thought, oh yeah, I could give that a crack and just see what it's like. And I don't know if you've done a wedding before, but geez, that's high pressure.
Not professionally. I've shot a wedding, and that in itself, or actually a couple, but that in itself, just taking good photos is pressure enough, let alone getting paid to do it, and the time critical.
Yeah.
As far as I'm concerned, that's not me.
Yeah. And like if you miss 1 second, like one important moment, you can't rewind it.
Oh, somebody's uncle or whatever doesn't get
Yeah. Yeah. So that scared me. I was like, and then the hours and the hours of editing, like hundreds and like I think I had 2,000 shots from this one wedding, and trying to work
Wow.
out which ones were going to be good. Yeah, and really turned me off it. Yeah. And then so I went down the food photography sort of area, and I probably dabbled in that a bit more than the weddings. But the thing I found with that is it was really hard to compete with, well, here in Newcastle, we have a lot of social media marketing companies.
Yeah, right.
They wouldn't just offer photography, they would offer like a digital sort of like marketing strategy through Instagram or whatever for their social media platforms. And that's something that just, I'll be honest with you, like sales and that sort of thing, I couldn't compete with it. So
Yeah, right.
I lost out on a lot of jobs because I couldn't provide that service on top of
it wasn't end to end.
yeah. And you really need a team of guys. And I actually think you need a team of people with wedding photographers. You really need a second shooter and maybe even a videographer with you to really get through it. So, it just turned me off the whole thing.
Yeah, most of the pro guys I have talked to in terms of wedding photography in particular, they're usually working with at least one other photographer, if not another photographer and a videographer, as you say, simply because you don't get the coverage on your own. You can't get different angles. Otherwise, you're running around like a blue ass fly.
Oh, yeah.
You do miss stuff, and you didn't find out that this particular uncle or that auntie or whatever was important to that person, and you didn't know it, and then you get it in the neck, or you don't get paid, or whatever.
Yeah. And I was sort of warned before I got into it, you can get some bridezillas that may not be happy with the style, or
and can we have the raws as well?
you have the raw so they can edit them. So the list goes on.
Outside of that commercial side of things, do you set yourself creative challenges? Do you set yourself projects? And how do you go about doing that?
Yeah. So here in Newcastle, you're very like there's so many great places to photograph. Don't get me wrong, but as you know, every single composition has been shot almost from every single angle. So
Well,
such
to the
challenge.
Opera House and the Harbour Bridge, it's really hard to come up with a unique shot of them.
But it keeps me awake at night, that, because I try to still challenge myself, even though every shot's been taken, to try and come up with a theory or some sort of um, different angle or composition that no one's come up with. And I think that's why I integrated the water photography, because not a lot of people want to get into the water. There's been a lot of shark attacks lately.
Yeah.
And people are, it's just a different perspective getting into the water. So I think that's where I'm going to start heading down more water, because, yeah, it just gives you a different perspective.
Yeah, definitely.
But yeah, I come up with different sort of ideas, and then I just sort of wait for those perfect conditions. And then when those conditions come up, that's when um, I'll try and, pull off that concept. But, with water photography, I found there's just so much effort that goes into it that you wouldn't even realize, like making sure, like the preparation the day before, you've got to prep everything in that water housing, test that it's not going to leak. And then even on the morning of, like, and when you're in the water, so many things can go wrong, whether it's you've got it on the wrong setting, and I don't know, like a focus setting that's not, you know, capturing the sharp image, or a water droplet might come down over the lens and just completely ruin a shot that you thought you've nailed. And
Yeah.
I just have so much respect for water photographers, because you're physically out there, you're swimming against waves, and it's so
Yeah, you
challenging.
can't exactly open the case up and fiddle around with settings or change an SD card, for example, if you.
Yeah. Yeah. And the water housing I bought from Aquatech, um, I bought the base model, and it has like a backing plate where once your camera's locked in there, you can't actually change any of the settings.
Yeah,
You,
right.
you have to buy another backing plate for it, which is $1,000 just for this bit of perspex, to be able to change the settings. So I'm constantly in and out of the water until I can save up for a proper backing.
Yeah.
Once that's locked in, so I go sort of semi-automatic,
Yeah, right.
just so I can pull off what I need to achieve.
Yeah. What
And
what kind of depth is the case you got rated to?
what was that? Sorry.
At what depth is the case rated to?
I think it's 30 meters. I think with the aperture.
That's pretty good. Yeah.
Yeah. So, but I wouldn't mind getting like a different housing that can go a bit deeper. I'd love to get into scuba diving and
Yeah.
going right down, and going.
Well, then you've got to bring your lights and everything into it as well. So it becomes a very, very expensive hobby.
They're so expensive. It's an expensive hobby, as you know, Grant.
Yeah.
But it's so enjoyable too. So
Absolutely. Absolutely.
yeah.
It sounded like what you were saying before is that you kind of do a bit of pre-visualization. You are thinking about, if I go and do this, that'll work, or go and find something. Is that something you do a lot of? Is it just occasionally? Where does pre-visualization of your shoots come in?
Yeah. So I think I've heard you previously speak about like just trying to get a different composition than what everyone else is taking. Because, there's so many locations I want to head to that I haven't been to, but I don't want to just copy that same. I'm getting to that point now where I want to try and push the boundaries of a different sort of composition at these hotspots. So I've got a bit of a hit list of what the places that I want to hit, and with the help of Google Earth and some of those 360 cameras, I try to just look at what would it look like if I came from, a different angle. And I do go back through hashtags to see, right, what photographers have captured, X, Y, and Z. How can I try to make it at least a little bit different? I've even dabbled in And here in Newcastle, when I was doing my TAFE course, there's drone light painting, just to give it a different element. That's challenging, but I sort of moved on from attempting that. Yeah, it's just challenging.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, it sounds like you don't have any real problems staying motivated.
Yeah.
What about in terms of sort of refining something? As you said, looking at your water photography and starting to get into scuba and that sort of thing. Do you find yourself getting pulled in different directions and saying, "Oh, well, I want to improve this on my drone, or I want to improve this on my Astro, or the water photography"? How do you deal with spreading yourself across all of those? Because it's a bit of a double-edged sword. One, you've always got something new to play with, but then you've also got to get better at each of them.
Yeah, it's challenging in that. And like it's risky doing water photography when you know there's going to be a really good sunrise, because you might go out and do water photography and you get back, and I've had this happen, and you think you've nailed all the shots and none of them because you've had all of them. So it's risky. So I'm getting constantly pulled in different directions of like different areas of photography, I feel. And it's just more what I'm feeling like I want to improve on is where I go with it. So yeah. Originally I was super hooked on drone photography, but I don't know, I don't do as much of it as I used to. I'm sort of now trying to venture into Astro and learn a bit, because Astro in itself, this has full science to that. And there's so many different equipment you can use to improve an Astro image. So I guess this Milky Way season, I'm going to try and venture out with a few photographers who I know are pretty, and I just like to pick their brains. Like I love learning and I love asking other photographers for tips and tricks. And I mean, I do prefer to shoot by myself. Don't get me wrong. I'm definitely more creative when I'm shooting by myself, but yeah, you can learn so much from any other photographer. It doesn't matter what level they are, because there will always be something that you just didn't know.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah. You can always look.
I think the fascinating thing is that there's, even with people that are relative beginners, and I'm not saying, like they've just picked up a camera today, that probably not a lot you're going to learn out of somebody that's literally just picked one up, but they've had a little bit of experience. But just the way that they might look at the world and the way that they would compose compared to you might be quite different. And they might, I've had workshops where they might be looking to me for advice, and I'm going, well, I can't improve on what you're doing there. You've nailed the composition. I can't tell you anything better,
Yeah.
I mean, there are also other cases where you kind of go, well, this bit down here in this corner is a bit too distracting, so lift it up a bit and see how that works. So it does work both ways. But I totally get what you mean in terms of finding out new stuff from different people, regardless of what level they're at, because you do get that experience from them of how they view the world, which to me is the important thing in photography, not necessarily your technical capability. Yes, the technical stuff's important because you've got to keep current with that and keep improving with your technical capability. But once you know how to use your camera, it's then going, okay, well, what sort of shot am I going to create here? Am I going long? Am I going short? And then what am I doing in terms of focal lengths, et cetera, et cetera. Right. Once you know your camera, you're off to the races. And it's really then about, okay, what am I trying to do creatively that's a little bit different?
Yeah, absolutely. And, photography, one thing I've learned is so subjective. Like an image that I might like, someone else might think that's terrible. And it's funny, like when you do go out with a group of people to photograph even the same object, it's always unbelievable when you see their finished product compared to your finished product. Like whether it be their composition or whether it be the way they've edited it. But it's really just up to the individual. I've found like there's so many variables. So
Totally. I think that's one of the magic things about photography. So I've said on the podcast several times, you can have 4 or 5 photographers within a 20-meter space and they'll all come back with something completely different, even though they're in that small, compact space, And to me, that's one of the wonderful things about photography, because you totally get to decide not only compositionally, but also right through to the end edit, every aspect about your image and how you want it to look.
yeah,
So everybody's got different ideas about what they want to do, and that's part of the magic for me.
yeah, absolutely.
What would success in your photography look like to you?
I think, for me, I don't know. Like I think, and it probably happens. But the first sort of success I felt for me was, that first sale of a print that someone liked something that you captured, edited. I think that for me, selling prints for me is a success, because if you've created an image and someone wants to get that framed and put it up on their wall, and that's pretty cool. So success for me is that, but I don't know, like me just getting out and capturing is a success. To be honest, it's more about the process is a success.
Okay.
Look, if they sell, they sell, but if they don't, that's okay. I'm doing it for me.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What about your most unforgettable photography experience? What's the one experience that just keeps saying to you, "Hey, this was really, really worth doing"?
Yeah. Look, I think, there's been numerous sunrises where it's just completely blown my mind of how much color there is in the sky. But if I think probably my most successful moment, it was probably, going to a certain location, and it's the same one that I'd prefer to go back to. And I really want to go back to this place. And you've been there, is Horsehead Rock and Cattle Rock. It's a landscape photographer's heaven there. Like,
Isn't it?
so many good rocks. I was so excited when I got there, and I reckon I could have spent days there, just different compositions. And that is magical place. So
Yeah, I can't disagree with you. Both of those formations, that whole Sapphire Coast region is incredible. And I think just the ability to go in there and think about, okay, well, everyone's shot it, everyone's done it to death. How can I do something different? Which is one of the things I was trying to do. I took the drone down there to the Camel and started shooting it from out to sea, looking back.
yeah,
And which is a view most people can't see unless they're on a boat or on a light aircraft, So it was just trying to and I played around a little bit also with some overhead stuff and a bit of intentional drone movement, like zooming in and out by lifting the drone up and down while doing a long exposure and that sort of thing. Just trying to do something different, which, as you said, is really something that you try to do. I guess in doing that, what are the things you're trying to experiment with in terms of looking for something that's a bit unique? Not necessarily there at Camel Rock and Horsehead or whatever, but
I'm just looking for, again, something different that no one's seen, or something. I mean, it's hard, and it's very hard to do, but if you can come up with some sort of concept. So I'm always looking for some sort of concept, or weather, something in the weather that just really strikes your eye. I think that's what I'm aiming for, is just something different, whether it be a lightning strike or whether it be a crazy storm rolling in, or an aurora. I'm always aiming for that. I'm always trying to, and the other thing is with my sort of editing style, you might notice it is quite bright and colourful.
Yep.
And I don't know if all people really like the bright and colourful sort of sunrise thing, but for me, that's sort of what I chase, and what I try to capture are those really big, bright banger sunrises. And I think that stems back to like a lot of my photography mates ask me, "Oh, why do you always go for the bangers? Like, why can't you just like just cloudy?" And it excites me, those bangers, like. But also, I think, being in my previous career as a police officer, you do see a lot of negative stuff. So for me, seeing that amazing sunrise and capturing it, just I think that's what drives me to capture those things. Is just how good is nature and
Yeah, totally.
it's changing.
For me, it's kind of similar, but I'm also thinking about, okay, well, there's me and that rock fisherman over there, and I look up and down the beach or the rock shelf that I'm on. There's no one else there, so no one else is seeing that at that moment, and you're seeing something that 99% of the population isn't seeing because they're not up that early. They're snoring away in bed still, or you know, if it's a weekday, maybe on their way to work, and they might glance out the window and go, "Oh, that looks like a nice sunrise," but they're listening to 2GB or whatever it is, and
Yeah,
on their way to work.
yeah,
They don't really appreciate it and take the time to actually soak that in.
yeah.
Me, that's one of the reasons why I do it. I love being there, seeing stuff that most people aren't seeing and aren't looking at.
Yeah, and I think, like for me in Newcastle, it's not that I didn't love the place, that I don't think I realised how beautiful and lucky we are to live on this East Coast. Like, I think I've fallen more in love with where I live up and down the East Coast because, and other like followers on Instagram have often texted me, even that aren't photographers, and they're just sort of said, "Oh, like you've really opened my eyes up to how beautiful this place is." And when you find somewhere that they might not know about that's
Yeah.
close by, I get text messages of like, "Oh, how do I get to this place just to take my kids for a swim?" I find that pretty rewarding. So
Yeah, definitely, definitely. I think finding those little secret spots is a lot of fun too. And I mean, with Google Maps these days, is actually not that hard to do. And yeah, I mean, it's hard to do in a city like Newcastle or Sydney because everybody's been up and down the coast like forever, but you can still find little snippets that, and again, it comes back to what I was saying about the way that people look at the world. You can find a snippet and an angle that a lot of people haven't sort of caught themselves because they haven't actually looked properly at the world and said, this is what I want to take away from.
yeah, absolutely. And one place that I visit every now and again is, and I don't know if you've been to it, but Tin City up in the Stockton.
Never done the trek down to Tin City. I've been up
Yeah,
Towner Bay and down the other end at
Stockton.
Stockton, but
Yeah.
never ventured out to Tin City.
Yeah, it's a hard place to get to. So that's a perfect example of, whenever I take a photo there, people go, "Wow, is that what it looks like? I can't believe people live there in like sand, like tin sheds." It's so cool.
Yeah, yeah. Well, there's a little spot down around Maroubra,
Yep.
between Maroubra and Malabar, I think it is. And there were places there that were used back in the Depression by people living there. And you can only get with ladders and all the rest of this sort of thing up on the cliffs, and that's somewhere that I've wanted to shoot for a little while as well because it's kind of tucked away. Nobody really knows about it. Nobody talks about it. You don't see it in the media very much, but there's these little fascinating places where people have actually lived there
Yep.
simply because they had no money to live anywhere else, and so they whacked up a few bits of wood and corrugated iron and whatever, and they've made their life on this cliffside next to the ocean. How they dealt with a southerly buster, I don't know. But
and storm off. Yeah, it'd be crazy.
speaking of storms, you've done a little bit of that. Because I mean, as I said, your range is pretty broad.
Yep.
Where does that fit in your sort of?
Yeah, so it's sort of a new sort of genre that I've taken to, and only recently. So I was still learning that, but I have two photographers up here in Newcastle that are quite experienced in that area, and they often send me messages when there's a storm front heading in, and it's a bit of an adrenaline rush, to be honest. And I mean, lightning scares the absolute pound of me. But,
yeah, when you're standing out on a rock shelf in the water and there's lightning striking the water around you.
Oh, yeah. But it's a
Do I want to be here?
Yeah, it's a double-edged sword, but I'm still learning and trying to master that. That's another area. That and Astro I'm really trying to work on, but
Cool.
but yeah. I mainly rely on those two guys that I reach out to. They're all over the weather apps, and one of them in particular specializes in storm photography. So he'll text me, and then if I can get there, I'll get there. So yeah.
Have you got any horror stories from your photography life?
Yeah, I think I've got two that stand out. One, I don't know if you've ever shot at Crescent Shed in that cave that sort of looks out, and there's like this jagged rock.
I know where you're talking about. I haven't shot it myself. Again, it's kind of one of those places a lot of people are shot, and it's really hard to get a shot of. But
dangerous too, like just the rocks get there, and then you get in the cave and there's cobwebs, and then there's bats above your head, and like in the early hours of the morning, it's quite scary. But funny story, I actually ran into Simone Osborne. I think you've interviewed her too.
Yeah.
But yeah, I met her in the cave at like 4 a.m. in the morning, and I felt like, I had to really connect with her quickly just to put her mind at ease that, I'm a photographer. But it wasn't on that occasion. There was another occasion where I think I got the tides wrong on my app, and the tide was coming in. And honestly, by the time I was shooting, I had the choice of whether I stay in the cave until the tide subsided. And I made the stupid decision, I've got to get out of here. So I'm holding the camera above my head and just getting absolutely smashed by waves. And my camera was getting, hit by salt water. And I was very lucky to get out. I really pushed the boundaries there for my safety. Shouldn't have done it. But that was one.
Did the camera survive?
It eventually had a bit of a meltdown last year, and I had to send it back to Canon to get basically a refurbishment. And really get it was like a brand new camera, but
yeah, well, I've had the guts changed a couple of times on my 16, my R6. Luckily, I've kept out of the water. So.
Yeah, I think if you're shooting near the coast and with water, it's eventually gonna.
Yeah, just the salt air is bad enough,
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, so the second horror story was sort of more around my drone photography, not just. I mean, I've had a few close calls with batteries running out while it's out over the ocean filming whales. But I think one in particular, I was on Newcastle Beach, and I was actually doing it was a professional job for a pro surfer. I was filming him with the drone, just getting some footage for him. And what happened is a whale in the background got caught up in one of those shark drumlines.
Oh, yeah, yep.
And I thought, and it was rushing around, and I thought, I better just put the drone over and just see what's going on. And I captured this amazing, 4K footage of this whale. He tangled, and it was flipping over, and it was really badly injured. Actually, the footage was very confronting to watch. But I submitted it through to our local news coverage, and they put it up on TV on the news. And Anyway, I ended up posting a video on my Instagram, and oh, geez, did I get some backlash for filming it? Like, I don't know whether, and it was more around, oh, you shouldn't be flying a drone like near a whale, and everything I did. Like, I've done my drone license, and I'm fully insured, and I understand what the legislation is, being an ex-police officer. And it turns out I hadn't breached any of those rules, but the amount of
Yeah, I mean,
criticism,
it's 60 meters or something above minimum,
it's 100 meters actually, but
isn't
we
it?
with the drone that I've got, like the thing that people don't realize is with the drone I've got, it's got a zoom function, and the zoom is quite amazing. So, and you can't just hover over a whale; you've got to be moving. So I actually run with CASA, the Civil Aviation Authority, and clarified everything. And I didn't do anything wrong, but people just don't understand, I guess, the legislation behind it.
Mm.
And so, yeah, they were just quick to judge. I got absolutely smashed on social media for it. And then something weird happened. My Instagram got hacked and everything just got deleted. So
Oh, wow.
I don't know that it was coincidence or whether someone didn't want that video out, but it just vanished off of social media and my whole account just shut down. So I had to rebuild my whole account. So
Okay.
that's probably, when you build up your platform and all your images on your social media account and then it just disappears, I just, it broke me.
Oh, I can imagine.
Yeah.
Let's talk a little bit about that because it always interests me. So that wasn't Instagram taking you down. That was somebody had grabbed hold of it somehow.
Somehow, yeah, I don't know. I actually don't know how it was brought down. It just, the account was gone.
Wow.
And yeah, that footage was deleted. All my images were deleted. Yeah, and it all happened within a week of posting that video. And look, at that point, it was very controversial topic. There was a lot of whales migrating north and were getting caught in these drum lines. And whilst I see a great purpose for them, like obviously you've seen a lot of shark attacks recently in Sydney. It definitely has a place, but unfortunately, seals, whales, and it happens constantly. Yeah, they get tangled up in these things. They go for the bait that's on the hook, and there's got to be a better way of tracking these sharks that's a bit safer for the rest of the marine life. So,
Yeah.
but it was very controversial, hot topic amongst the government, and yeah, I don't know.
Well,
It couldn't.
I'm probably going to say something a bit controversial here. I don't believe drum lines and nets are the right answer.
Why?
To be honest, having been a surfer myself,
Yeah,
you're in their environment.
exactly.
It's kind of like, well, if I go for a walk on the Serengeti and I come across a lion and I don't have a way of defending myself, probably going to get eaten.
Yeah,
So if I'm out in the water and a shark comes along, then he wants to have a nibble, he's going to have a nibble, and there's not much I can do about it. And to be honest, the fact that drum lines and nets and all the rest of this sort of thing are out there hasn't actually prevented anyone from getting attacked. I don't believe. I'd really like to see some actual science done on that sort of thing. But from my perspective, I think they should just drop all of that. And I'm sorry, but you take your chance when you get in the water. There are other marine critters out there that can that do you as well. You go walking around the wrong rock pools and you step on a stonefish, you know about it. I've actually had and I was wearing booties at the time, trodden on a sea urchin and had that go into my foot about an inch and a half. And I can tell you, that's not pleasant, but I should have watched where I was walking and I should have not trusted that the booty was going to protect my foot. And, I should, and it was about not watching where I was going. I was hopping across rocks with a surfboard under my arm, but I blame myself for that, not the sea urchin.
Yeah. On that topic, Greg, like over the years of flying my drone, I've witnessed so many sharks just swimming past surfers. And if anything, it's actually made me realize how often they're not even interested in.
By and large, they don't care. We're not on their menu. They don't like the taste of human, and that's most of the attacks, as they're called. I call them bites. Are largely them saying, "Hello, what's this?" And how they find out what it is they give it a bite and they go, "Yeah, was that edible? No, all right, off I go." And unfortunately, you might lose a leg or a chunk of your spleen or whatever, but that's just how they operate, And it's only particular sharks, bulls mostly.
Yeah.
But your great white might take you entirely simply because they're big enough and ugly enough to come and do that. But yeah, from my perspective, I don't think the bumping them off is the right answer.
I agree. There has to be something else that they can come up with, I reckon.
I mean, if nothing else, better detection. But as you said, you see them with surfers in the water quite often, and they're just not interested. They just cruising on past 90% of the time. Anyway, that's probably a divergence from photography.
Yeah, it's okay.
What about what you've learned about your relationship with the natural world through your photography? How has your view of nature changed from photography?
I don't think I really valued it as much until I started going out and taking photographs, and just how lucky we are, especially here in Australia. We've got the bush, and I do like to head out west every now and again, and wildlife and sea life. It's just, I guess it's given me an appreciation through photography of how lucky we are to be able to capture it, to be able to observe it, and just the therapeutic benefits of being out in it. Like, there's nothing better than, getting up early and just like crashing waves at the beach or birds, it's just, there's so many benefits from it.
Mm-hmm. What about when you get back from a shoot? Are you straight in and edit, or you leave it to later and just let it marinate for a bit?
Yeah. So I might be a bit different to most people, I think. I have a bit of a process that I sort of stick to. So I'll come home from a shoot, and whilst I'm having a coffee, is sort of connect my phone to the camera and just go through I try not to take too many photos whilst I'm out, because then it becomes harder to choose which ones you like. I just, but I know sort of what I'm looking for. I'm looking for obviously a main feature or a main, point in the image. And then what I'm looking for is in the foreground, I'm looking for something that drags your attention into that main point, whether it be flowing water, whether it be, leading lines. So yeah, I'll go through my phone, through the app, the Canon app, and sort of tag the ones that I think are going to be worthy. I also then bring it on to, after that, I'll probably wait, to maybe later in the day, so I've got fresh eyes to look at it. And then once I've got it up on my computer, I'll actually create a folder, and I'll go through every image again and just see if I agree with the ones that I've chosen. Then I drag it into that folder, straight into Lightroom. And yeah, I sort of just, one thing that I did learn through TAFE and photography is just trying to eliminate anything that's distracting from the main subject. So if there's little things in the corners, that was one thing my photography teacher taught me, was just removing any distractions that might, and that could be, I guess, considered controversial in a way, because you're manipulating a photo to get rid of that sort of thing. But if it helps the overall, what you're trying to show is your hero piece, then, I think that's beneficial. So I'll often, so I'll get the image, take it into Lightroom, make your adjustments with color and and lighting and whatnot, but then I drag it over into Photoshop to clean up those distracting things. I just find Photoshop for me is a bit more accurate in terms of your removal tools. So yeah, look, I've always been taught to try and capture the image in one shot, and that is always my goal. But there are some concepts or images where I know that that's not going to be achievable. So multiple images might be used and stacked within Photoshop here and there. And look, yeah, it's the old debate about AI and like how much should you manipulate an image, and I'm sort of torn on that whole thing because there's some images I don't want to manipulate too much, and I don't, and it is what you see. But then there's sometimes where I'm like, oh, I could get a bit creative with this, and the things that I've learned through Photoshop and at TAFE, you can really make an interesting sort of image, and it almost look like a painting in some ways.
Yeah.
And whether or not it's photography, or you could debate that, but it's still a form of art in some way. So, yeah, I'm torn on that whole thing as to whether I'm manipulating it too much or whether, it's
Yeah, I think a lot of people get hung up on whether what to edit and what not to edit, and
Yeah.
I'm pretty much an advocate for my own photography. I
Yeah.
say you do whatever you
Yeah.
want to do. You want to replace skies, whatever. You want to use AI generated bits in it, that's fine if that's what you want to do.
Yeah.
But number one, be creative. Number two, be honest about it and say this is what I've done, and that's the key. And I think that's something that really important. But in terms of what I do, yeah, I try to make it as realistic as possible. I try to generate, I guess, the feeling that I had when I was there.
Yeah.
And I feel I can only do that if I'm being authentic and honest about what's actually there in the image. So I don't take much out. There's the occasional time when it's like, oh, that's really distracting. It's got to go.
Yeah.
But I'll usually do that with a crop if I can. If I
Yeah.
can't with a crop, then yeah, okay, I might use an erase tool or a clone tool or whatever.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, for me, that honesty and authenticity is the important thing.
Yeah, and I'm always honest when I do get a message from a photographer saying, "Hey, how did you achieve this? Is this like, have you used something in it?" And 9 times out of 10, I actually haven't done anything to manipulate the photo. It's just I've had to explain the settings as to how I've been able to achieve that.
Okay.
And then if it is an occasion where I've used, multiple images and stacked them, then yeah, I just tell them, yeah, it's that photo.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and as I say, it's I think whatever you want to do.
Yeah.
It's that it is art.
Yeah.
If you're doing documentary photography, like journalistic reporting and that sort of thing, then you shouldn't be editing. And that's where I go, no. That's where you kind of cut the cord. But for me, it's art. Fill your boots, do what you want to do.
That's it. Each to your own. And that's what I said about it being so subjective, isn't it? Like,
Absolutely.
yeah.
You mentioned making prints. Are you printing yourself or are you using a service?
Yeah, look, I looked into printing myself. I looked at like the certain printers and whatnot. But, as you're probably aware, Grant, it's like a full industry in itself, printing. Like, it's not just buying the printer and, the amount of
Push a button and it goes, yeah.
Yeah, to get it right, to get the contrast right, the colors right, I gave up on that, and I've got someone here in Newcastle. There's a local artist here called Mitch Revs in Newcastle, and he's not a photographer. He does a certain style of art, and he's given an opportunity to a lot of local photographers to like he's got a gallery in Merriweather, and he's given us an opportunity where we can display our own, like you get to feature 10 images and you can rotate them. But I've had a lot of sales through Mitch Revs. And I think that's great. I don't have to pay for it. It's free to sign up. I don't have to pay. All I had to pay for is just the little display images that are on display. And then, they get to choose what size and they frame it at the same printing place. So that's a really good opportunity to get your art out there without actually having to get a gallery.
Yeah.
It's really helpful.
Nice.
Yeah.
You talked about what happened to your Instagram account.
Yeah.
What impact did that have on you personally in terms of trying to recover from that, in terms of rebuilding your following and all that sort of thing?
Yeah. Well, in a positive way, like, as you've probably experienced, that your early day photographs aren't as good as probably what, like I went back through my I luckily had saved all my images, and then I realized, well, some of them probably don't deserve to be on there. So
Fair enough.
all those and put in the new ones. But yeah, it rocked me in terms of, you put so much work into building up a platform where you can display your artwork. And look, I don't do it for the likes and followers. I couldn't care if I have, a few hundred followers or whatever. That's probably not why I do it. It's more of a documentation of my art in a way that if someone comes across it, it might give the opportunity for them to then buy that work. So,
Yeah.
but it's definitely still heartbreaking when your artwork just disappears and vanishes.
Absolutely.
And I think I've heard you say, like on previous podcasts, it's a double-edged sword, Instagram. Like, I've got mixed emotions about it. It can be,
Yeah, I'm unhappy about it a lot of the time.
yeah. It can be great to get your artwork out there, but there's a lot of trolls out there that will just smash you and, like put inappropriate comments under the things. People get offended by certain photographs, whether it be a photograph of a whale. Or flying in a restricted airspace, even though it wasn't in a restricted airspace. Like, I get so many comments about, am I doing something legal or ethical? And why do I have to justify myself if I know I did something right? And if they don't understand the legislation around that, why do I have to justify myself to say that, look, can't you just enjoy the image for what it is? And yeah, I think that's a downside to Instagram is you really, I mean, it's social media. What do you expect? But, and then the other thing is, and I think you spoke to Gil about this, is, theft of your images. And I'm only just starting to experience that now. I've had a few of my images stolen, and yeah, well, that's hard to take as well. When you put so much effort into an image and then someone without permission just takes it and uses it for other purposes.
Yeah. I to be honest, I haven't really gone into looking for that sort of thing. I don't really know. I'm probably not, good enough or famous enough for people to pinch my stuff. But from my perspective, that's just not on. And I mean, I've had plenty of people say, "Oh, sorry, I do remember one case that I did have where it was a travel agent over, I think, bizarrely, it was a Norwegian travel agent or something, and it was some images of Britain, and they were using them for a travel brochure in Norway for going to Britain. And it was really kind of weird, So anyway, I eventually sort of chased them up and got them to get rid of them. But yeah, the stealing of someone's images is just not on as far as I'm concerned.
Yeah.
I'm interested though in talking a little bit more about that, teasing out the conversation around having to justify yourself. The thing is, you kind of do go into that defense mode, and
You do.
I do have to justify it. But if you actually then, before you respond or say anything, you take a sit back and you go, actually, I don't have to justify it. I don't care that you've made this comment. and I can leave your comment unanswered if you want. The thing is like answering your phone. If somebody rings you from a number you don't know, you can go left swipe. I'm not answering that. And the same, when you get an email from somebody that, a Nigerian prince or whatever, you don't respond to that.
Yeah, it's so
If you actually sit back and take a view that, okay, not everything that gets said. If somebody's saying, giving you a pat on the back, I'm almost always responding to somebody.
Yeah, same. Yeah,
simply because I appreciate their commentary. But if someone's having a crack at you, it's kind of like, well, do I need to engage with you?
Yeah.
Is it just easier to either I think on Instagram you can mute people so they can't see your stuff, or you can't see their rubbish, or you really want to go nuclear, you can block them, and I've blocked quite a few people simply because of some of the comments they've made. But yeah, I've tended to change my opinion on how I respond to that sort of stuff.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm the same. And I've learned from that. I've learned that if you engage back, that's exactly what they want an argument. It is. It's easier to just go whatever and not reply. So I've learned.
Yeah, don't feed the trolls.
No, that's all they want. So.
Yeah, exactly. They want the attention back. I think that's, in a lot of cases, that's the reason why they do it. And I look at it and go, well, I haven't got time to waste on that sort of thing. And
yeah,
it does make you arc up initially when you read it. It's like, what's this bullshit?
Yeah, especially if they don't know what they're talking about.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah. Anyway, that's fine.
In saying that, where do you see photography's place in society? What is photography in society?
Yeah, look, I think it's still going to be there for years to come. In some sense, maybe not product photography. I can really see AI taking over that to some degree. But in terms of landscape photography, in terms of real estate and wedding photography, I can see it. I can see images getting better. With you always see the new camera come out with the newest sort of gear and technology, and I can see it improving, but I don't think it'll ever be completely replaced. Hopefully, because if you like photography and you appreciate it, then you appreciate how someone's captured that image.
Yeah.
And that's the other good thing about Instagram is I often just scroll and look at other people's images and I appreciate their, the way that they've captured it and edited it. I have a big appreciation for other photographers, I think.
Mm-hmm.
So
what's the best and or worst piece of advice anyone's given you?
The best advice probably came from my photography teacher. And it was like, I think like a lot of the students in the class were very arty, and just like they were very arty in the way that they look at photography. And my photography teacher would look at my work and say, you really need to push your boundaries with creativity. Like your landscape photography is great, but try to take a couple of steps to the left or right when you're out. Try and look for close details here and there. And it just thinking about that when you're setting up for landscape photography has helped for better compositions, I think. That's probably the best advice that I was given was, don't just lock in on a subject. Have a look around whilst you're there. And you may come across a composition that is much more suitable. So, yeah, I think that's probably the best advice. I don't know about the worst advice. Maybe, I think probably someone told me to get into wedding photography and then I realized how hectic that is and how much pressure. I think that's probably the worst advice. Me and stress don't go hand in hand together. So,
well, if you're doing photography for relaxation or therapeutic, then I don't think wedding photography is going to be that therapeutic.
It's not.
I really admire wedding photographers that are able to get out there and nail it and are creative and are really into that sort of thing. But as you say, the pressure side of things, it's just not something that makes me tick.
Oh, and they're long days. Like he's probably did start at 10 a.m. where I had to photograph the bride. And then by the time you finished, it's midnight. That's a long shift doing photography.
That's right. And when you actually do the sums, unless you can really charge a bomb, work out once you've done the edit and all the rest of it, you kind of go, yeah, well, I'm doing this for probably about $15 an hour,
Yeah, you do. Well, it's not really worth it.
Anyway, are there any other photographers that I need to be talking to on the podcast?
Well, in my area, there's so many good photographers here in Newcastle, but there's some professional ones, but one, Shannon Hardigan, is a local photographer up here, has a gallery in Newcastle. He is an amazing photographer.
Mm-hmm.
But as a guy that's probably not well known that I absolutely love his photography, his name's Mick Oxley. I don't know if you follow him on it.
He does follow Mick, yeah.
Yeah, he's one of the guys that I catch up with for storm chasing. He is honestly he's like a scientist. Like the way he works out his astro, he's just all over it. He's such an intelligent guy and a really nice guy, but I really think he would make a good podcast, I reckon.
Awesome. Thank you.
And he's up in Queensland. It's a storm chaser as well. That he is very popular up in Queensland with his photography. So yeah, Mick Oxley, I recommend him.
Awesome. Appreciate it.
Yeah.
Well, my last question, I know you listen to the podcast, so I know you know what's coming. Do you like pineapple on pizza?
Absolutely. Especially like a chicken barbecue and pineapple.
Okay.
I'm definitely in for it. Yeah, definitely.
Awesome. Thanks very much, Mick. It has been an absolute pleasure talking to you today. Where can people find your work?
Yeah, just on Instagram under Mick Fortier Photography, or Facebook, it's under the same name, or on my website, which is www.mickfortierphotography.com.au. And yeah, thanks for having me on.
Appreciate it. Thanks very much, mate.
Thanks, Paddy.
Have you ever had your photography criticised online? If so, leave a comment below. I'm really interested to hear what you've got to say. Thanks again for listening to Landscape Photography Worlds. I hope you enjoyed the show and keep listening because I'm going to be joined by some great guests in upcoming episodes. You can find my work in this podcast at gruntswinburnphotography.com, along with prints, photography gear. I'm also on Vero Photo, Instagram, Facebook, and Blue Sky. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe because it really helps to get the podcast seen and heard. I'm Grant Swinburne. Hope to see you out shooting soon.